There was once this little girl with a very tall name, Phoebe Ann Oakley Moses. She grew up in a Quaker log cabin in Dark County. Her father passed away while providing for his family after a great ice storm. Her mother and 8 children were all that was left, and no one else to help. The second father to Annie also died, and the third worked real hard to support the large family, but to no avail. Annie, in the meantime, took her birth father's gun, an old muzzle loader, and shot a squirrel when she was only a little girl. From then on, she went hunting to help feed the large family. Although they were Quakers who didn't believe in violence, it was permitted for them to hunt for food because in the wilderness, they had no other way of providing food. Whatever they grew or hunted was all they had to eat. Sometimes they might get something at the shop in town like sugar or salt, but mainly they took care of themselves. Annie sold her game to food markets. She was a great hunting reputation and became the highest paid marks person. She was such a great shot, she entered a contest in target skills, and she met her husband, later whom she beat in the contest. Later he toured with her and became her agent. They were performers for the Sells Brothers Circus, and Wild Bill saw the show and hired her in his Wild West show. Buffalo Bill. They performed all over the world for royalty and regular folks. Fred and his family took care of the animals used in the show, giving Annie and the other performers more time to practice. She could shoot backwards while riding on a bicycle or a horse and hit glass balls tossed up in the air. Or even a playing card turned sideways with its edges out. If Annie ever missed, it was because of being distracted. And sometimes she would just stamp her foot down, and the bullets were so afraid they'd jump right back and hit the right target, right off the floor. She even performed with Sitting Bull. He was a famous Indian who also joined the show. Sitting Bull left her a feather she would wear, sometimes on special occasions in her hair, long after he passed away. Sitting Bull shared with her the secrets of that feather and named her Little Sure Shot. And if she held that feather high in the wind, it would whisper to her what game was going in which direction to do the best hunting. They both knew it was best to hunt and use everything from the animal and not be wasteful. Once Annie Oakley toured through New York City. "Land of Goshen," she cried. "Look at the size of those buildings, mighty tall living if you ask me. I'm more at home here living on the ground with you, Frank," Annie's husband replied. "Me too, Annie." Well, the Buffalo Bill's Wild West show set up for another sellout crowd. The performers were excellent as always, and after meeting the admirers in the audience, Annie had put in a very long day. She stretched and yammered, "I'm plumb tuckered out, but someone has to feed these animals." "The boys all caught that croup that's going around," Frank said. "Annie, let someone else do that. I've got a late night meeting with Buffalo Bill and his fellow who wants to book our show, or I'd help too." Annie replied, "It's okay, honey. You have to strike while the iron is hot." "I'm okay. Fred and his girls here will help me give a hand. You just run along and watch yourselves here in the big city now." Fred, the girls, and Annie began to settle down, and the animals, while Mama tended the boys. "Here's a little Indian medicine Sitting Bull gave me for whatever ails your boys, Mama," said Annie. "Thanks, Annie," replied Mama. Suddenly, from out in the dark, a mother screamed and a baby cried, piercing the night. bells pealed out with shouts for help, help, and fire, fire. "Come on, Fred, let's go see if we can help," exclaimed Annie. "The animals are all still in their harness, and we have water in the wagon." Off they raced into the night with the sound of hoofbeats pounding. When they reached the scene, it was too crowded to get closer with the water. "Look, that mama and her baby are on the top floor of that burning building. The ladder's blocked by that fallen timber, and the fire is getting closer," exclaimed Annie. Annie left out a holler. "Yee-haw!" She ran the horses so fast they ran up the side of the building. And when they reached the top of that building, they had the team of horses jump onto the rooftop only 2 buildings away from the building that was on fire. "I have to try something, Fred. Are you with me?" asked Annie. "All the way, Annie," replied Fred. Annie had the horses jump to the building right beside the burning one and put the brakes on so fast that the water barrels flew out of the wagon and were all over the burning building. So Annie shot them to pieces, and it rained down on the burning building, putting out the fire. Annie shot that to pieces too, along with the beams that were blocking the firemen's way to get to rescuing the wife and the baby inside. The firefighters made her an honorary member, and the mayor gave her the key to the city. The whole city was grateful. "I'm just being a good neighbor and a little sure shot," replied Annie. Annie and the rest of the Wild West show, and Fred and his family, traveled for many years from one adventure to another. But that's another story.